The mountains were quiet in October, the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums and makes you feel like you're underwater. I was tired of the noise of the city, the constant buzzing of life I no longer wanted to be part of. That's why I chose the cabin, isolated, hidden deep in the woods, surrounded by nothing but trees that whispered secrets when the wind passed through. I found it online, an old listing with no photos inside, just one exterior shot showing a tilted wooden structure draped in fog. The previous owner had died, and the family didn't want anything to do with it. The price was too good to pass up. I convinced myself it was a fixer-upper, a place where I could disconnect, write, maybe even figure out what I wanted from life. But I didn't know then what I was really stepping into. The moment my Jeep's tires crunched the gravel of the narrow path that led to the property, I felt it. That pressure in my chest, like the mountain air, was too heavy, too dense. The trees leaned too close. Their branches didn't sway like they should. Everything felt held in place. The cabin looked even worse in person. The porch was sunken, the windows smeared with dirt from years of storms. A crow sat on the broken railing, staring at me as I unloaded my bags. It didn't call. It didn't fly. Just stared. Inside was surprisingly intact. Dust blanketed everything, but the floorboards held. There was a fireplace, a rickety desk, and a single wooden chair. I opened every drawer and cabinet, curious. Most were empty except for one. In the back corner of the bedroom closet was a small, locked box. Rusted. I should have left it. But something about it made my fingers itch. I found a hammer in the Jeep and pried it open. Inside was a leather-bound journal, yellowed with age. No name on the cover. Just a date. October 17, 1974. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. I've been here for 3 days. The woods don't sleep. At night, I hear something walking on the roof. The same footsteps, the same pattern. It never changes. I turned the page. The mirror showed me something this morning. Not my face, something behind me. But when I turned around, there was nothing. My spine stiffened. I looked at the mirror across the room, cracked in the corner. Nothing behind me. Just me. I closed the book. I should have left then. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. That night, the wind howled through the trees, but inside the cabin was dead silent. Not peaceful, dead. Like the air had been drained. Around 2 a.m., I heard the first knock. 3 taps, slow and deliberate. I sat up in bed, straining my ears. Another knock, this time on the window. I peeked through the curtain. Nothing. Just woods and the silhouette of trees. But the knocking continued. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch. The fog was thick, curling around my legs like fingers. I felt watched. Not seen, watched. There's a difference. I went back inside, bolted the door, and lit a fire. The journal sat next to me. I opened it again. October 19th, 1974. I saw it. Standing by the tree line. It wears a face that isn't its own. I slammed the book shut. Sleep didn't come easy, but exhaustion eventually won. At 3:33 a.m., I woke to the sound of breathing. Not mine. Heavy, shallow. I held my breath. It continued. I sat up. Nothing there. I grabbed the flashlight and swept it across the room. Empty. But on the mirror, the same cracked one, I saw a smear. Like someone had pressed their face against it. A breath mark. I didn't sleep after that. The next day, I hiked around the property to clear my head. Found the old well out back, covered by rotted wood. Something inside glinted. I leaned over and saw a chain. I pulled it. A small wooden bucket rose up, inside, another journal. This one soaked and swollen. The pages barely turned, but I could make out a few lines. It wants to be let in. Don't trust the reflection. The door is not locked from the outside. That night, I didn't light the fire. I wanted darkness. I needed to know if it was still watching. I waited in the silence. At 3:33 a.m., I saw the shadow. It stood by the fireplace. Tall. Wrong. Its arms too long, its head tilted unnaturally. But the face. It was mine. I blinked and it was gone. The journal was open. A new entry had appeared. October 20th, 1974. He sees me now. I didn't write that. I swear I didn't. But the ink was wet. I packed my things. Threw everything into the Jeep. But when I turned the key, nothing. The engine was dead. The fog pressed against the windshield like a tide. Something moved through it. I stayed awake until morning. Watching. Waiting. Tomorrow, I hike down the mountain. I don't care how long it takes. This cabin doesn't want me here. And I think it never did. I left the journal behind. But not before writing one last line. If you find this, don't read further. Don't stay. Leave now. Or it will wear your face next. The wind outside was howling again. I hadn't touched the diary since I last closed it, but the moment I opened my eyes that morning, it was there. Not where I left it, on the wooden table, but now lying next to my bedroll. Open. On a different page. My name was written on it. In different handwriting. Elliot, stay out of the cellar. That single sentence burned itself into my eyes. I blinked, rubbed them, shook my head, but it remained. I ran my fingers over the ink. It was dry. Very real. But I had never written that. I hadn't even opened the diary since the day I found it hidden in the cabin's floorboards. I stepped outside, trying to clear my head. The air was sharp. Frost on the grass. The Jeep, still parked awkwardly near the edge of the clearing, had frost on the windows despite it being late spring. Something felt off. Too quiet. No birds. No squirrels. Just the creak of the trees. I decided to pack. Enough was enough. As I zipped up the last of my gear, something crashed beneath the floorboards. A hollow thud. Then again. And again. Like someone banging from below. I backed toward the front door. My breath hitched. I had no intention of checking the cellar. I hadn't even found a door to one. But now, it felt like the diary was daring me to disobey. Against better judgment, I pulled back the rug near the fireplace. And there it was, a trapdoor. Old iron handle. Thick planks. Deep scratches like something had tried to claw its way out. I hesitated for a long time. Then I opened it. The smell hit me first. Wet dirt, rot, something metallic. The ladder creaked as I descended, flashlight in hand. The basement was deeper than expected. Earth walls, timber beams, and at the far end, a table with something on it. I approached slowly. It was a reel-to-reel tape recorder. Still functional. Still plugged into a battery pack. Dusty, but not ancient. Next to it, a tape labeled, "Play me." I pressed the button. Static. Then a voice. Male. Shaky. Panicked. "If you're hearing this, you found the diary. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I thought it would help. I thought maybe writing it down would keep it from following me. But it doesn't work. It never works." There was a long pause, then a shuddering breath. "The thing in the woods, it wants a witness. That's all. Someone to remember. Someone to suffer. If you're here now, it's already watching." The tape went silent. I stared at the recorder, my skin crawling. Something above creaked, like someone walking across the floor. I turned off my flashlight. Dark. I held my breath. More footsteps. Slower this time. deliberate. Then, the diary slid down through the trapdoor opening and hit the ground near my feet. The page had changed again. You disobeyed. I ran. Up the ladder. Through the front door. Into the woods. I didn't stop running until I reached the jeep. The keys were gone. Of course. But the engine was running. No. It had never started. I had checked the tank the night before, empty. Now it purred. Like it wanted me to get in. I stood frozen, staring at the idling vehicle. My instincts screamed not to enter, but what choice did I have? Stay out here in the forest with whatever had written those words? Or get into a running jeep that was never supposed to start? I climbed in. The engine revved. The GPS flickered to life. New route. No road names. Just a blinking red line leading deeper into the forest. I tried backing out. The wheel locked. The jeep moved forward on its own. Trees blurred past. Faster than I should have been going. Then everything went black. I woke up in the cabin. Back in my bedroll. The diary next to me. Closed. The page markers slid out slightly, like a tongue teasing the next taste of madness. I opened it. It wasn't my handwriting. Again. Welcome back, Elliot. Time repeats itself until you understand. I slammed the book shut and hurled it into the fireplace. Flames caught, the paper curled, blackened, and the room went dark. The fire was gone. The cabin, completely dark. My flashlight wouldn't turn on. Then a voice. Whispering. From behind me. Why did you burn my memories? I turned slowly. Nothing. Until I looked in the cracked mirror on the wall. My reflection wasn't mine. It was the man from the tape. Eyes wide. Hollow. Skin gray. Lips moving without sound. I covered the mirror with a towel. Then the door slammed shut. Locked. And the diary was back on the table. No fire damage. Still open. New words appeared on the page. The cabin remembers. The forest watches. You are the story now. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. In desperation, I tore out every page, threw the book into the woods, grabbed my pack and broke the window to escape. The cold bit hard as I sprinted. This time, I didn't stop until I reached the road. A car came. An old truck. Driven by a man in flannel. He rolled down the window. You from the cabin? He asked. I nodded, breathless. He stared at me for a long second. Then said, Don't feel bad. It gets most of us. I jumped in without question. As we drove away, he didn't speak. But I noticed the same diary on the dashboard. Same leather cover. Same scratched initials. He noticed me looking. Been trying to burn it for years, he muttered. Doesn't stay gone. None of it does. He dropped me at a gas station 20 miles away. When I turned to thank him, he was gone. Truck. Diary. Everything. The clerk said he never saw anyone drop me off. When I got home, the diary was on my nightstand. The first page had a new title. Haunted Cabin Diary, Elliot's entry number 2. And beneath that, see you soon. I'm not the kind of person who usually shares stories online, especially ones like this. But something about what happened to me last October, it won't leave me alone. Maybe writing it down will help. Or maybe I just need to warn someone. I'm 31. My name's Caleb Turner. I work as a freelance photographer, mostly nature shots, occasionally events. Last fall, I took a trip to the dense pine forests of northern Oregon. It wasn't my first solo trip. I'd been camping alone for years. But this one changed everything. The plan was simple. I'd drive up into a secluded part of the forest reserve near the old, now defunct Whispering Pines Fire Watch Tower. That area had long been abandoned, the ranger station closed after budget cuts in 2008. I figured that meant quiet, undisturbed shots of wildlife, foggy dawns, and moody trees. A photographer's dream. I brought 2 cameras, my trusty Nikon DSLR, and a motion-sensitive infrared trail camera. The trail cam had night vision and could auto-record if anything moved. I mounted it to a tree just outside the small clearing where I set up camp, about 100 feet from where the trees thickened again. The dense forest there felt ancient, like it had grown that way for centuries without interruption. The first day was uneventful. I shot the sunset between the pines, made dinner over a fire, and turned in early. It was cold enough that the edges of my tent crackled with frost. I woke around 2:40 a.m., not to a sound, but to silence. Absolute, crushing silence. You don't realize how loud the forest is at night until it stops. I lay still, my breath visible in the faint moonlight filtering through the tent fabric. Then, a soft beep. My trail cam. It had detected motion. I didn't go out immediately. I convinced myself it was an animal, a deer, a raccoon. Still, I couldn't sleep. Around 3:15, I stepped out to check it. My boots crunched lightly on the frosted ground as I made my way toward the tree. The camera's tiny screen showed the latest frame. It was grainy, black and white. The timestamp, 2 hours 41 minutes and 8 seconds. In the image, trees, shadows, and a flicker. A faint light near the center, like a distant eye reflecting the camera's infrared. I dismissed it. Probably just light bouncing off moisture on the bark. I left the footage alone and returned to my tent, but I never really fell back asleep. Day 2 was more productive. I spent hours hiking, taking photos. The whole forest seemed oddly empty though. No birds, no squirrels, no insects. Just wind and the occasional creak of tree limbs. I thought maybe it was the season. Or altitude. That night, I decided to leave the trail cam running again. Same thing. 2:43 a.m. Beep. I stayed in the tent, this time watching the live view on my phone. The trail cam app let me stream directly from the cam. For the first 20 seconds, nothing. Then a flicker. A slow, rhythmic dimming and returning of light. Blink. Pause. Blink. From the same spot in the trees as the night before. Not light bouncing. Not wind through branches. It was too consistent. Too deliberate. It looked like an eye. Blinking. But no body. No shape. Just the motion. That night, something tapped against my tent. 3 times. Not scraping. Not an animal. Just tap. 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 I didn't move. I barely breathed. The tapping stopped after a minute. I lay frozen until the sky started to lighten. Morning came, and I checked the camera footage from both nights again. Same pattern. Same blinking. But on the second night, it moved. Just slightly. From one side of the tree to another. As if repositioning. I zoomed in, frame by frame. And that's when I saw it. Between the blinks, for less than a second, a shape. Tall, narrow. Almost humanoid. But twisted. The proportions weren't right. Its head was tilted too far, its limbs slightly bent backwards. And worst of all, it was facing the camera. I told myself it was a glitch. That I was overanalyzing pixels in a blurry clip. I told myself anything to keep from losing it. But that night, the third night, things got worse. The blinking began earlier. 2:11 a.m. I watched it from inside my tent, heart pounding. Then the camera glitched, a hard stutter. When the feed resumed, the blinking had moved. Closer. To the edge of the clearing. I got up, grabbed my flashlight, and quietly unzipped the tent. The forest was still. No sound. No wind. Just the faint crunch of frost under my feet as I moved toward the trail cam. Halfway there, I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Behind me. I spun, light scanning the trees. Nothing. But I could still hear it. Low. Raspy. Too close. I ran back to the tent, zipped it shut, and sat with my flashlight on for the rest of the night. At dawn, I checked around the clearing. That's when I found the marks. In the frost, just outside the camera's view, were prints. Barefoot. But long. Toes oddly spread. Each print dragged slightly, like whatever made them had trouble walking. And worse, they circled my tent. I packed everything in under 10 minutes. Didn't bother rolling the tent, just shoved it in the trunk. I drove without stopping until I reached the nearest gas station with people and lights and sound. I didn't look at the footage again for weeks. But eventually, curiosity won. I loaded the final night's file. The blinking was back. And then, at 3 a.m. sharp, the camera caught something. A face. It leaned from behind the tree. No eyes. Just deep, hollow pits. And it didn't blink. It stared. Until the battery died. I never went back to that forest. But the memory did. 2 weeks after returning to the city, I couldn't sleep. Not normally. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that blinking, too slow, too conscious. And always the same tree. The one that had a face. I tried to brush it off as lack of sleep. As stress. As an overactive imagination enhanced by a few too many horror podcasts, and too much time alone in the woods. But then, one night, my phone buzzed at 3 a.m. Motion detected. It was from the night camera. The same camera I had forgotten at the site. The feed shouldn't have worked. It wasn't even connected to Wi-Fi anymore. But the app showed a single thumbnail, a dark forest. Same angle. Same tree. Same blink. Only this time, the blink was slower. And closer. I zoomed in. The eyes weren't in the tree anymore. They were just in front of the camera. Reflected light. And beneath them, a shadow. Human-shaped. But not quite. I closed the app. I turned my phone off. For hours I just sat upright on my bed, wrapped in a blanket like a child, ears tuned to every sound in the apartment. The next morning, I called the park office. Asked if anyone had found my camera. What camera? I described the location. That area's been closed since the rock slide last year. No one's allowed past Gate 7. I froze. I was there 2 weeks ago. Camped overnight. Silence. Sir, the ranger said slowly. There haven't been trails cleared there since last October. The site you're talking about is under about 4 feet of rubble. I hung up. That night, I got another motion alert. But this time, there was no image. Just a black screen. And breathing. Soft. Slow. Familiar. It was my own. But I wasn't recording anything. Then came the knock. Not at my front door. At the window. My apartment's 3rd floor. I didn't look. I couldn't. But the next morning, I found dirt under the window pane. And a single, bare footprint on the sill. With a deep dragged mark across the edge. I took the day off. Visited a friend who used to work for the Forest Service. Showed him the footage. He didn't flinch. Just leaned in, adjusted his glasses. You know what this looks like? He said. It looks like an old local story. Creepy folktale from northern towns. About a tree that mimics attention. One that blinks back when you look too long. Supposedly cursed. Follows you. I laughed. Nervously. You're kidding. He wasn't. Some hikers used to say it marks you. That once you see it blink, it remembers you. Doesn't matter where you go. You belong to it now. I tried to find the story online. Nothing. Just obscure forums, dead links. No images. That night I heard it again. Not the knock. Not the breathing. A whisper. Still watching. My lights cut out. My laptop screen flickered. On it, frozen, a single frame from the old camera. The tree. The eyes. And something behind me, reflected faintly. I spun around. Nothing. I left my apartment that night. Haven't stayed anywhere longer than a few days since. But no matter where I go. At 3 a.m., the blinking returns. Slower each time. Closer. Waiting. And I still don't know, was it ever really a tree? Which of the two stories gave you the biggest chills? Let us know in the comments. Your feedback helps shape future content. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it. And subscribe to the channel. So you never miss another real horror story again.